Thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. These words, which are drawn from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 1, are inscribed across the face of an old sundial that is set on a raised pedestal on a small patch of grass in the yard just outside the church office doors on the Simcoe Street side of St. Andrews. Many walk past the pedestal without even noticing that it's there, but the story that lies behind it is worth knowing. On the side of the pedestal itself are words indicating that the memorial was placed to commemorate the life of a woman named Margaret Eleanor Douglas, who was, as the pedestal states, one of the founders of Holiday House, commemorating a labor of love. And underneath those words of commemoration are the words, "Hours fly, flowers die, new days, new ways pass by, love stays." It's a beautiful reminder, but who was Margaret Eleanor Douglas, and what was Holiday House? In order to try to discover a bit more about the sundial and the pedestal and the story behind it, Maggie McGregor and I began to dig through some of the old historical records at the church, as well as to try to find out whatever we could find online. Margaret Eleanor Douglas was born in Toronto on July 18th, 1862. We do not know a great deal about her childhood, but she certainly had a long connection with St. Andrew's Church. In 1930, shortly after her death, the Reverend Dr. Stuart Parker wrote the following in a church newsletter.
Miss Douglas became attached to the Sunday school as far back as 1885 and taught in it till the year 1914. But her greatest work was the organization of the Girls' Own Club in 1894. For 20 years, she labored for the club as its president. Perhaps the most notable achievement of the club in those years was the establishment of our holiday house on Lake Simcoe, to which every year we are able to send both young and old for rest and recuperation. It was the first thing of its kind in Ontario, and the enterprise by which it was built in 1908 was kindled by Miss Douglas. The need appealed to her. For some 6 or 8 years previously, the Girls' Club had been raising money by rummage sales and concerts and sending mothers and children to rented quarters in the country. It seemed most desirable that a permanent place should be acquired, and the faith and courage of Miss Douglas were the driving forces by which the ideal was eventually reached.
It is interesting to pause for a moment to ponder the experiences that Eleanor Douglas would have lived through, having lived from 1862 to 1930. Not only was she born just a few years before the formation of Canada as a country, but she lived in the final years of Queen Victoria's reign. She saw the turn of the century. She was a part of the Congregation of St. Andrews in a very busy and intriguing time in its history. And in light of the fact that she taught Sunday school from 1885 to 1914, there is every reason to believe that some of the young men who she had taught in Sunday school would have gone to fight, and sadly, some to die in the First World War. Moreover, as those of us living through the COVID-19 pandemic can now relate, Miss Douglas would have known the challenges of the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918, as well as all the other anxieties and adjustments that the war had unleashed on society. Suffice it to say that she lived through challenging and tumultuous times. But what she's remembered for on this pedestal just outside of the doors of the church was a tranquil place that she helped to establish in order to offer young families, and particularly economically challenged young mothers and children from downtown Toronto, a chance to get out of the city for a break, a summer holiday, a chance to rest and recuperate from the struggles and challenges of life. Shortly after Miss Douglas's death, it was decided to create a memorial in her honor, which was the origin of the sundial and the pedestal. Parker wrote,
"It has appeared that there is only one place for a memorial, Holiday House. It is intended, therefore, to erect a stone sundial on the lawn there. It will be suitably inscribed, and let us hope will bring all who in the future shall gather about it into remembrance of a life that was lived in and that responded to the sunshine of God's presence." When once again the summer sun shines on Lake Simcoe, Let those who at Holiday House bask in it think, while they measure the hours of the love and devotion of her in whose mind Holiday House first took shape.
This is a picture of Holiday House, with, as you will note, the pedestal and the sundial in it. We found the picture on the website of the Innisfil Historical Society, and thereby discovered that it was located in Lefroy, Ontario, which is a small village on the shores of Lake Simcoe, quite close to the town of Innisfil, just over an hour north of Toronto. Holiday House was owned by the Congregation of St. Andrews until 1946, and was eventually overseen by the Women's Association. Frequent references through the years are made to the good memories and cherished times that many enjoyed on that property. While it's not clear why it was sold, it may simply have been that there were other challenges in the congregation in the mid to late 1940s, due in no small part to the struggles of the past decades, 2 world wars, a Great Depression, and many changes in society in the neighborhood around St. Andrews. But we were intrigued to find out if it was still standing. So this past Tuesday after work, headed out for a drive north to Lefroy. After chatting with a few people who lived in the area, we eventually found what we assumed was the property, knocked on the door, and were greeted by one of the present owners named Francine West, who shared some great insights into its history, who knew about the pedestal and the sundial at St. Andrews, and who was gracious enough to allow a few pictures of the present property to be taken. Set on the shores of Lake Simcoe, it was immediately apparent how wonderful a place it would have been for young girls and their mothers to get out of the city for a break, to relax, to enjoy the beautiful tranquil setting. Of course, the present owner also jokingly noted that one of the second-floor bedrooms was close to a fire escape that some of the girls may have used to sneak out at night to go share a cigarette with boys who were at a boys' camp that was located nearby, but we shall leave such stories for another day. So what inspiration, what reflections might we draw from the story of Margaret Eleanor Douglas and Holiday House? Perhaps simply this. In the midst of all the tumults of the times that she lived through, Margaret Eleanor Douglas found a way to serve others in a very practical yet very profound way. To children and young families who were likely living challenging lives in almost unimaginably challenging and tumultuous times in our world, Miss Douglas found a way to offer the gifts of beauty, of reconnection with nature, of relaxation, of tranquility. They were beautiful gifts then, and they continue to be beautiful gifts even now. We shall never know whose lives were touched, blessed, and inspired by beautiful moments at Holiday House, but it can be good to simply give thanks for people like Margaret Eleanor Douglas and for the labor of love that became such a blessing to others. And we are wise to draw inspiration from such a beautiful example, even today.